Now, some of the other movements that you might encounter in your first class, as well as working with isolating the hips, we also work with isolating the upper body as well. And you may well learn what we call a chest slide, and that is where we slide the rib cage from side to side. So what happens is you think about your sort of torso in two sections. We think about from the ribs up and then from the ribs down. Now for chest slides, we think of keeping the hips completely still, so you can engage your glutes a little bit, squeeze your bottom a little bit to sort of keep the lower half still, and then you imagine that your rib cage is sitting on a shelf. So your ribs, and you can also think of your shoulder at this point, are going to slide and leave your hips behind, and then they can slide the other way. And this is what we call a rib cage slide. What you might find that happens when you first try this is that your hips will want to move as well. That's completely normal, and your teacher would keep an eye on that, and she'll keep encouraging you, he or she will keep encouraging you to keep your lower body still. Keeping the knees soft and the feet fairly close under the hips. This is a rib cage slide. Another move that you're likely to find early on when you start learning to belly dance is a very simple accent hip bump of the hips. So this is a little bit like the slide that we did before, but this time it's a short, sharp bump of the hip instead of a gentle slide. And the great thing about this is it makes all the beads and the coins on your hip scarf jump. So this is an accent of the hip. And it's a short, sharp swing. Now, one thing that you want to try and avoid when you're doing any action with the hips side to side is bending and straightening your legs too much. So what I quite often see with beginners is when we're doing these hip bumps or hip accents, is this bending and straightening and kind of snapping of the legs. So if you think back to your belly dance posture with the soft knees, there might be a little bit of movement in the legs, but they're more like shock absorbers than they are actually driving the move. So you might think, well, how am I supposed to do the move? Well, we tend to drive a lot of the movements from the tops of the legs and the glutes and the lower abdominals. So it's really your sort of center of gravity area is quite low, and you're thinking of swinging from that area rather than snapping through your legs. Okay, so these are your hip accents. Another move, which you'll probably learn in your very first belly dance class, is a hip drop. This one, a very rhythmical type of move. And to do this, what you can do is stand on your left foot, put the ball of the right foot in front of you here, try not to have the leg too far out to the side, pop it in front, keep the knee nice and close, don't let it fold out. And what you do is you're squeezing this right hip up towards the ribs, and then the main part of the move is a drop down. And you're really sort of letting gravity take control here. And the hip drops down in this nice sort of earthy way. And down, and down, and down. And because belly dance is a dance of isolation, we try to keep this isolated in the hip. And what you want to avoid is what we sometimes see in a beginner class is bouncing up through the top of the head. The whole body bounces. Again, imagining you've got a glass of water balanced on your head and you're trying to isolate the move through the hip. And then what you'll likely do is take this arm up, take the other arm out, and make a nice frame for your hip drop. So another move which you'll very likely learn in your first class is a hip circle, and it looks like this. It's a circling of the hips around the body. So the actions that you need for this one are back to the hip slide that you did in the warm-up here, but you're also going to need a forward and back action with the hips. So what happens is you're keeping your spine in a neutral position, but you'll need to push your hips forward so they come in line with your toes. So you feel pressure on the toes. Your hips come in line with the toes here, but you're also going to need to pull your hips so they come back in line with, if not past your heels, and you might feel the pressure come off your toes. So forwards and back. And when you go back, you're pulling from underneath your belly button and keeping your spine nice and rounded. So something we sometimes see in a beginner class, a common mistake, is sticking the bottom out like this. You don't want that look. Okay, you pull from under the belly button, keep the spine rounded. That can take a bit of practice, so you shouldn't get discouraged if it feels odd, because you will get there in the end. So for the hip circle, we slide to the side, and then we push forwards, then we slide to the other side, and then we pull back. And then it's just a question of joining up those points, and we create this lovely circle. And of course you can go the other way. That is your hip circle. Another move that you might learn early on is what we call snake arms. So in belly dance, as well as using the hips and the tummy, we also like to use our arms. If you've ever watched a belly dancer, you will have probably seen them do this very smooth kind of movement. Now, it's unlikely that you'll be doing a lot of very in-depth arm work and very technical stuff through the arms in your first class. So what I like to do is a little bit of preparation that would help you to just understand some of the basic concepts to do with arms, and that will gradually lead you on to doing some more sort of advanced work. Now, the whole point of arms in belly dance is to make them look like they're boneless. So when you think of our arms, they have a lot of long, straight lines. So the challenge for us as a belly dancer is to make these long, straight lines look fluid, almost like you're underwater. So we need to think about two of the main points that we can actually create movement with. We can't do anything about these long straight lines, but we've got the wrist here and we've got the elbow here. So what I want you to do is just lift your elbow and let the wrist stay down, and on the other side lift the elbow and let it drop down. So you're initiating lifting your arm no higher than the shoulder. Don't try and lift it really high, just below the shoulder. You're initiating this move with your elbow. Okay, now what we're going to do is lift the elbow, and now you're going to lift the wrist, and then you're going to drop your elbow back down and take the wrist back down. So it goes elbow, wrist, elbow, wrist, elbow, wrist, elbow, wrist, elbow, wrist. Now smooth it. Make it so that you're not stopping in between. Don't take the arms too high just yet, because taking the arms higher will create more tension. It will make it harder work for you. We just want to think about elbow, wrist, elbow, wrist. And now smooth, a little bit faster. Out, 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 and out. Good. Well done.